seeing it. Yeah, but live stream, right? Yeah, live stream.
Test, test, test. I'm just seeing if you can hear it.
You want to give me a test, test, test again?
Test, test, test. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, 6 seconds later.
Called to order the regular meeting of the Solvang City Council for July the 10th, 2017. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Deuce.
Present.
Jameson.
Here.
Toussaint.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Mayor Richardson.
Now here, would you stand with me for the pledge, please? Hand over your heart, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager's report.
Just a few updates on things going around in town. You may have noticed the directional signs that are in the brown pots around town. We've put flowers in those, actually low watering flowers, I should say.
Are they artificial
Succulents.
flowers?
Succulent. No, they're succulents. They're real flowers with the water. So we've got those in, and then we've also added 3 new recycle containers along Copenhagen Drive. So we have we get a grant every year from the state Cal Recycle to do things like that. So we put 3 new blue containers along Copenhagen. And then lastly, I think your subcommittee may report on that, but we were able to reallocate the Indian gaming funds that we had remaining in the bank towards this parking lot improvements for the fire station addition. So that's my report.
May I just make a comment about the recycling? We have a problem with people from a part of the world that smoke a lot in our community, and I've seen some of them trying to put their butts in the trash can in the post office, which would not be really smart if they're still lit, and there's no place for them really to put cigarette butts. There are very few places, I should say.
Yeah, we did put several of the
About
cigarette
6 of them, I think.
Yeah, I think Hands might have helped build those on the trash cans around town, and they became a little problematic because they got just packed in there. So I don't know that we still have all 6 of them. We still have a few of them, but yeah, we've tried to do some of that in the areas that are heavy use.
Okay,
of
so we might
cigarettes,
want to
but
do that over by the post office, because what happens
you
is
take a look at that. Yeah.
they end up in the gutter. If they end up in the gutter, then they go in the storm drain, and then they go to where they shouldn't be, just like the ad shows.
Your public
on
works
TV.
director's back there listening. I'm sure he's taking notes on that.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just a concern of mine. I just don't want the debris and the garbage cans inside of the post office to catch on fire. Thank you.
They're not supposed to be smoking.
Next is public
But tell them
communications,
that.
written or verbal. At this time, please direct comments to City Council regarding consent calendar items or items not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the council. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Fred Kovo is first.
A compliment tonight. Mayor and city council members, Fred Koval, Solvang. Is this on? I think so. Maybe not.
It's on.
All right. Looking at the warrants, because we always seem to gloss over the warrants a couple of times a month, and or maybe it's once a month. And I look with great pleasure on page 27, and it's from the County of Santa Barbara, and it's for the sale of 550,000 PG&E Rule 20 credits, and we got them at half price for $275,000. Wow, it happened. There was a naysayer sitting up there, but I'm glad it happened anyway. Okay, that was the good part. Now, there's always, I cannot believe some of the things that I see here. And it's just, well, the first one, I thought we were finished with the CAFR and all of that stuff. And then I see the incremental payment here of $12,000 to Terry. Corey, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. But that's all part of it. But I sort of look at all these numbers that are over $2,000. And it's just amazing. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of payments that occur that the city finance department has to go through once a month and make these payments. It's truly just beyond all expectations, and I guess they're doing a good job. However, I see a payment for $5,000 for fuel for the Santa Ynez Valley Transit. Of course, they get their incremental grant payment, but I didn't know we were paying for their fuel too. Holy cow. And you know, just go through this whole thing, and you got Tyler Technologies, financial system yearly support. Holy Moses, $37,900. I didn't even know we needed that kind of support. I thought we could do that with Patrick Meyer. Doesn't seem like that's the case. So, and then you guys just talked about those great new blue recycling trash containers. Oh my gosh, please come to me. I can build those things for you for a lot less money. Because I'm seeing that those 4 containers cost $5,300. Wow, I want to do a competitive bid. I have a welding license. And then here's one for Platinum Plus. I'll never understand Platinum Plus and what that's all about, but it's another humongous number. Yeah, well 4. That got fixed. A new liner and a pump and a motor. $41,800 and change. And it's good that that's been pumping the way it has, because contrary to what you hear, I learned way back when, around here in 91, 92, 93, during the state water war years, a well 4 is in a perched aquifer. It's not in the uplands basin. That needs to be understood. That's why that water is different than the uplands basin water, and why it pumps continuously like it has for how many years before cityhood? It's been a real good well. So then, you know, I can understand Pacific Gas and Electric, $37,000 electric bill. That's just one of them that comes in. And then we have this Water Talent LLC. Glad they have an LLC. $4,800 for the peer review operation. Wow, peer review. Well, I don't want to bore you with the details, but I wish somebody was looking at this stuff and asking the staff, why do we have some of these big numbers that just keep going up? And of course, this warrant, total warrants, is $108,963.75. Well, 8 times 12 is what? 9,600,000, is that right? Something like that. Anyway, for this little burg, it sure is overwhelming to me, a resident.
Thank you, Fred. Next is William Tompkins.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is William Tompkins. I live in the city of Solvang and have been here for a little over 8.5 years. I am here tonight to discuss the light situation out in front of City Hall, or the lack thereof. It is as dark as a mine shaft after sunset. And I know that I can't be the only person that has problems seeing when he leaves the meeting, and I've nearly fallen because of not being able to see where I'm going if I forget my flashlight. So I would like to suggest that we do something, or the city do something about better lighting out there, because if somebody falls and really hurts himself, I do believe the city is going to be liable for it.
Are you talking specifically right in front of the building?
Right in front of City Hall, it's just pitch black. And it's very difficult, at least for me, to see when I leave here where the sidewalk ends and the street begins, and I tend to shuffle so that I know where my feet are. And I know that I'm not the only senior citizen that often comes here, and I know I couldn't be the only one to have that problem. I'm surprised somebody hasn't brought it up.
Well, there's the gentleman that can answer
Yeah,
our...
sometimes we forget to turn the light switch on. There are lights out there, but a lot of times because the meeting starts in the daylight, we don't go out and switch that on. But yeah, we can.
But
I flipped it on tonight, so it is
good,
on.
because it's rare that light is on when I leave. I do try to hang in here for the very end of the meeting, but I call 9:30 pumpkin time. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, William. Appreciate it. I have no other speaker slips. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for council comments, and we'll start with you, Mrs. Jamison.
Well, I made my one comment about the cigarette butt, so I don't have to do that again. And my other comment is the 4th of July parade was most enjoyable. All 4 city council people were on the float. I won't say where the mayor was. He won't ride with us, but that's okay. It was delightful. It was fun, and there was a good crowd. I thought there was a good crowd. There were a lot of people, and a lot of people at the barbecue. I wasn't able to go to the fireworks, but I'm sure that Hans will tell us all about it. And thank you, firemen, wherever you are.
Mr. Deuce?
Yes, the fireworks were great, and our little viewing platform was really cool also. What I'd like to do is just put out a big shout out to our first responders here in the valley and around the state. I'm sure everybody is aware of the Whittier incident, and that one was very close to home for me. It was very personal in that it took out Rancho Alegre. There's 2 buildings left up there: the dining hall and a cabin. Of course, they were right in line. They were right in line. The ranger had 15 minutes to get out. That was his warning. Grabbed a couple computers, some pictures, and lost everything. But at least him and his wife got out fine. It could have been an awful lot worse. Without some heroic work, getting up to the old Camp Drake, the Circle V camp. There's a conflicting number of kids, goes anywhere from 60 to 100, plus staff that were trapped. A couple staff members tried to get some of the kids out. They managed to get through, but anymore it would have been a disaster. Luckily, Forest Service went up there. They did a little pioneering to get in there. Brought a dozer with them, made their own road, and sheltered in place with the kids and staff for over 4 hours before they finally got out. This is what they do. They protect lives first, property second. They did a marvelous job, a brilliant operation to get all those kids and staff members out unscathed. It was a miracle. So, Rancho Alegre, like I said, is very dear to my heart. I was a Boy Scout. Did 2 summer camps at Camp Drake. I was in Troop 40 here in Solvang. My scoutmaster was Slim Larson, who was the ranch manager for the Clark family. And the reason Mission Council was given Rancho Alegre was because of Slim's involvement in scouting. And so the daughter gave the ranch in her mother's memory to Mission Council BSA. I was in the first troop to camp up there for dedication. There were no facilities up there, but the place was dedicated in late '64. There was a push made to put the facility together, a commissary, headquarters building, first aid, pool, archery range, rifle range. In time for summer camp in '65, they made it. It was a community effort, a Santa Barbara County community, scouting community effort. They made it. 52 years later, this year, actually this afternoon, I talked to our council exec and told him that we have to get the ranch up and running by October of this year so we can have outdoor school. We're not going to be able to do summer camp, we know that. But we have to get outdoor school up there because they're going to have these 6th graders from around Southern California are going to have an opportunity to see what a wildfire does, and more importantly, to see the rebirth of the land, the new little grass that's growing that hasn't grown under the brush fields for over 50 years, over 60 years. That was the last time a fire went through there. That was Refugio in '55. We're going to see grass that we haven't seen before in areas that we haven't seen before. We're going to see flowers that we haven't seen in 6 decades. It's going to be beautiful up there. And these kids, these 6th graders, have a tremendous opportunity. That's why I put the challenge out there, that we have to have outdoor school going by October. So, anyway, that's my comments, and I'm asking for a lot of support in this. We have a lot of challenges. From what I understand, the buildings were well insured, but there was an awful lot more than just buildings that were lost that I'm sure were not insured. While the ranch has been running under a conditional use permit through the county, I am sure that there will be a lot of red tape that has to be cut through very quickly, very surgically, to make this all happen. And so that's my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Toussaint?
Let's see. Attended the 4th of July events. Another League of California Cities training, in which I think a lot of it was fairly redundant from the January visit, so I don't want to go too much into it. But the one that I did get the most value out of was the finance section that was on Friday. That's the main reason why I went. And without going into too much detail there, I think it'd be interested in seeing if we could organize something so that the rest of the council can maybe see what we kind of went over on Friday with regard to the finance conferences. It's about a 4-hour thing. Maybe we can find some way to slim it down a little bit and just rehash over it, just refresh everyone on it. Let's see what else. Oh, so is there anything we can do about the lighting out there to be like on an automatic switch so that?
Yeah, we probably could put it on a timer. That might be better.
Yeah, ironically, one of the things is the men's bathroom, when you go in there, that it doesn't automatically turn on.
Yeah, that's a switched one, yeah.
Like, could that be on an auto?
Put a motion light in there,
Okay.
too. Yeah.
I always get halfway in and then wonder where I am.
You'll learn eventually.
I'll learn eventually, yeah. Muscle memory.
Same comment. The Public Works Director's back there taking notes.
Other than that, that's it. Let's go.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Hans, I like what you said, and fully support that. I think that's something special. That'd be great up there. Outside of that, the festivities for the 4th were excellent. Great show, couldn't beat it. Great gathering. I loved being there. And yeah, the Rotary Club. I want to thank the Rotary Club and everybody else that donated time and that was involved. So, thanks.
Regarding the parade, it was a wonderful parade, and I want to thank Rio Vista Chevrolet for providing the automobiles, the Corvette or the Camaro, either one.
Speak for yourself. We had a city flatbed. Ours was super.
The city donated yours.
Yeah,
We would have run right over top of your little
Hey,
program.
I want to tell you that I was so far back in the parade that you guys had this thing all cleaned up and were gone before I even got around. It was other than that, it was a wonderful parade, and actually, the crowds were immense. I don't think I've never seen a crowd that large. I believe it's probably some sort of a record. You know, it was really well done. And regarding Mr. Toussaint's statement about the financial thing, I have the prospectus here, and I also have the handouts. And I think it'd be really important for the council to get orientation on this, and possibly if we could bring in one or more of those particular folks that made the presentation, we could maybe join with Buellton and maybe even some of the county folks to pay for the thing, you know. So, but I think it's a great thing. It talks about the CAFR and the budgets and the taxes.
Yeah,
and all
we'll
that
talk
kind
to
of
Dave
thing.
Mullinex about maybe
Yeah.
coordinating something
Sure.
like that.
And I attended several of these seminars. One was on broadband, which was an interesting session, talking about the financing of this CETF, California Emerging Technology Fund, which was required by the state when there was a merger of a couple of the internet providers or telephone companies to provide funds for this fund, which amounts to a couple of $1 billion to provide internet access to other parts of the city that can't, or other parts of the state that can't get it. And I think that's about all I have. Although you know, I'd like to tell the folks out there that we're having a problem in parts of the city with speeding. There's you know, since Maple Street was extended from Pine over to Alisal, a lot of folks are using that as a bypass, and as a result of that, they're coming off of Mission, turning right up Pine Street and accelerating up the hill and before they take the left at Mission. and the speeds are getting excessive. And I think that the folks ought to be warned out there that the sheriff is going to be out there checking on you guys. And we're going to enforce that very strictly. And I hope that everybody gets the message, because it's a serious situation. The street is narrow, and the speed limit's 25, and there's been reports of it being people going up there past 50, which is too bad, because it's a dangerous situation. And with that, that's the end of my comments. Correspondence received by City Council. Anybody want to discuss that? We have a letter from Puck Erickson regarding the contribution to the San Ynez Valley Botanic Garden. We also have I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, the letter from Faith Whitaker, regarding shadowing of the mayor for a day. And I want to thank the city staff for their contribution and time in showing Faith Whitaker an interesting side of city government that she probably never recognized, and it was a job well done. I want to thank the staff for that. And then we also have the letter from calmca.org, which is a anti-marijuana letter, wanting to make sure that we're along their lines, and we are going to discuss the marijuana issue on August the 14th. So, any other comments on the letter, on the correspondence? Any changes to the agenda? I don't think so. One item. On to the council minutes of June the 12th and June the 26th of 2017. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions to those minutes?
I have a couple, and I've already told Lisa about them. One on page 8. Page 8? Yes, I both make the motion and I second the motion. I don't think I can do that, so we'll have to go back and figure out who did what there. And then on page 12, Lisa knows where these are, so don't be
these which
on page 8? On page 8.
There's,
Yeah, the number 4.
Item 4, the minutes.
Council.
I made the motion and I seconded the motion.
Well, you'll modify that. You can make the mayor second it. Okay.
Okay, and then the same thing happens on page 12? Or is it 13? Which one is it, Lisa? It's page 13. Page 13. I do the same thing down at the bottom 2 lines. I make the motion and I second it.
Well, you're just really good.
I must have been bored. Okay, and then on page, now this one really does have to be corrected. On page 12, it's about 2/3 of the way down. It says Councilmember Jameson would like to take the Solvang funding, the Solvang library funding, as was that I wanted to table the Solvang library funding.
Yeah, I heard take. You were on a roll that night. You're just.
I'll split it. I'll second that if we can split it.
Okay. And then after those, I just stopped reading them.
That's our additional committee pay, right?
Right, there we go.
Okay, okay. Then can I have a motion for the
I'll
approval
move
of the
that.
minutes with those changes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And I'm not seconding it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Can I have all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Pass. Consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any of the consent agenda items?
I'd like to pull B. B, like buzz.
Traffic signal agreement?
Yep.
Okay. Any of the others? Why don't we discuss that then?
Okay, I just want the people in Skip Mesa to be aware of what's going on and that the possibility there will not be a traffic signal put in down at that intersection And I think that's most unfortunate because we've told them all along that that's going to happen after Phase 4, or Phase 5, or whatever it is, was going to be completed, and there are going to be some people that are very upset by that. Plus, the people that live off of Atterdag and Chalk Hill, they were looking for relief from the traffic that's been going along there, and now the traffic is still going to go along there. So I think it's most unfortunate that this is what's happening. And I would like us to encourage Caltrans to put the signal in.
That requires those warrants, traffic warrants. How close are we, how far away from that are we?
We will be doing another count, or the consultant will, at the end of Phase 4, which they're almost at. And at that point, then, one of the reasons for this agreement is then to get the money from the developer so that we have it for when the warrants do get met down at a future time. But Caltrans will not allow it to go in without the warrants being met.
But I want to know when that day is going to be, when they're counting that, and everybody in this town needs to go to that intersection and try to get across.
Right.
I mean, really, if these people are going to be furious with this, and they were promised that, and they probably didn't read the fine print down there that it had to meet a certain standard, and they've all been looking forward to it.
Is there any way that we can, what if the warrants aren't met on this survey? Then what do we get to do?
Well, as I said, Caltrans is not going to accept plans to put a signal in until the warrants have been met. So you would assume eventually enough jet traffic will be generated just from the growth, other than the Skip Mesa project, that we may meet that warrant. And at that point, then you'd be able to do that. We can't force Caltrans. As you know, I wrote letters as the Public Works Director. I believe the mayor has sent letters. We've sent numerous letters. They're not going to change their policy and allow that without the warrants being met.
Are those warrant requirements, are they from the traffic coming off of Skip Mesa?
It's the conflict, yes, the
turns.
left turns. You just need a certain volume that meets that conflict with the through traffic.
So we could just have a great big parade
Yeah.
and
Do we
just
have-
stack,
do we have
and just
any
stack
idea-
them
That
up.
they're
Brad,
counting?
And
Do
just
we have
stack
any
'em up.
idea how close we are, or what we?
Matt, do you remember what the percentage short was?
I heard about 3 kids go down there some night and just round and round and round.
Well, we have to be there when the count is being made.
Good evening, Mayor Richardson, council members, Matt Vanderlinden, your Public Works Director and City Engineer. To answer your question, I don't off the top of my head know. We weren't really close. The warrant analysis looks at, I think it's 9 different categories of warrants, and one of them was was really close, but you generally need to meet more than just one of the 9 warrants in order to really carry for the study to really carry weight with Caltrans. So it looks at traffic volumes, delay times, and traffic accidents and things like that. So there's a whole list of.
Can that be made in relationship to the Chalk Hill entrance to Skip Mesa? Or the increased traffic flow on Chalk Hill because of the ease of getting out of there?
Well, I'm not sure I'm totally understanding your question, but let me just say this. Caltrans has told us that basically the way they evaluate a situation like this is they let the drivers decide how they want to drive and where they want to go. And in their mind, it's not a negative thing if all the drivers go out the back entrance and go up Ballard Canyon Road or over on Chalk Hill to Atterdag, because the drivers are taking the route they feel is the safest and most convenient. So so there's other options in Caltrans' minds for the drivers. So yeah, so they don't really, and there's already a traffic signal at Atterdag, so so they don't really, it's not really, well, they don't really take that into consideration.
They don't care.
Yeah,
They don't care.
Would that be an argument in when we discussed the warrants for the intersection at Mission, to include the discussion or argument at the exit at Chalk Hill based on the increased traffic flow through the school zone on Atterdag and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I think what we might want to do is if the warrant study is done after the completion of Phase 4 and it doesn't meet the warrants, we should have a meeting, we should try to have a meeting with Caltrans and say, look, the community the city council's already expressed their desire for the traffic signal. Caltrans doesn't have to pay for it. We've got money from the developer plus traffic mitigation fees and other city funding sources. The residents in Skip Mesa want it. It was always envisioned. That's part of the reason for this agreement, because it was never envisioned that it wouldn't meet the warrants. It was always just assumed that eventually it would meet the warrants. And so when the staff and the planning commission evaluated this, 14 years ago, they hadn't really considered that because it was just not even thought to be in the realm of possibility. So I think we need to have a meeting with Caltrans. They've known for years that traffic signal is desired there and is planned there. They've already issued the encroachment permit for the existing improvements to the intersection that went in, that included conduit and pole boxes and things like that for the electrical wiring for the traffic signals. So, I think there could be possibility of a political, push to encourage them. I've never actually gotten into that aspect of it with Caltrans, but I would say it wouldn't hurt to at least try that if the warrants aren't met.
But the reality is, if it's not necessary, why spend the money? And I mean, it doesn't really make sense. You can't just put it off on take it, go down Ballard or wherever else, because if people are willing to do that, then there's no need to go out the front, and that's a waste of money basically.
Yeah,
I mean, huge waste.
And that's Caltrans' perspective, and that from their perspective. Well, anyway, that's a valid point.
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments on 6B? All right, with that, can I have a motion accepting the consent calendar?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Deuce,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Toussaint,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes. That passes with a 5-0. On to the regular agenda.
Item 7, wellhead water softening study.
Staff report.
Alrighty. So to start off, it's important to realize that the city of Solvang has a long history of hard water, and it's not something that's unique to Solvang. Really, around the world and all across the United States, most communities have hard water, and the only communities that don't are those that have large lakes near them. So some of the cities around the Great Lakes and other large lakes like that, they pull water from these surface water sources, they treat it through a treatment plant and serve the water to their customers. But other sources, the primary other source of water supply is well water around the country and around the world. So hard water is very, very common problem. Our state water, of course, comes from surface water sources. It's considered soft water. And here in Solvang, as you're aware, because of the hard water, we have a lot of residential water softening with the automatic water softeners that generate the brine discharge to the wastewater treatment plant. And the brine discharge to the treatment plant creates problems at our treatment plant. So during the drought, the last couple years, we were frequently in violation of our waste discharge permit limits for sodium and chloride. And but the city has in the past taken measures to try to mitigate the salt discharge to the treatment plant. Back in 2002, the city council implemented non-residential water softening restrictions. So basically for all the commercial property in the city, they implemented a prohibition on brine discharge. So all those businesses that that want to have soft water, instead of having an automatic water softener, the alternative left to them is to have the canister type, the exchange tank type water softener. So they can still have water softeners, but they have to have the exchange tank type that don't discharge the brine waste. And then, of course, last year, 2016, the staff came before the City Council on several occasions to discuss the residential water softening restrictions. The City Council chose not to implement any residential water softening prohibitions. However, the City Council did direct staff to proceed with the conceptual study, the wellhead water softening study, and authorized a budget of $20,000. And staff went through our standard RFP and consultant procurement process and selected a qualified consultant. Water Consultancy is the company. And they completed the study. And I was just going to briefly highlight some of the main conclusions and recommendations of the study. For starters, during dry years, where more well water is used, more local well water is used, the city's wastewater treatment plant is commonly in violation of its discharge limitations, including those considered to be serious violations by the regional board. Number two, the city has identified 3 approaches to reducing salt discharges to the wastewater system. The first approach would be to provide wellhead softening at the city's upland wells. The second would be to prohibit residential automatic self-regenerating water softeners. The third would be the purchase and supply of additional state water. And what the consultant wasn't fully aware of is the fact that we're doing this study coming up about possible upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. So that would be the 4th alternative to remove the salt at the wastewater treatment plant at the tail end. And actually, after we've looked at the costs now, if we decide to implement upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant, it may in fact end up being cost-effective to combine additional treatment to remove the salts at the wastewater treatment plant. But we're going to be looking at that. So that'd be a 4th alternative. And the consultant did conclude that a combination of softened groundwater, so the wellhead water softening, and purchase of additional state water would allow us to comply with our wastewater treatment plant discharge limits. Further, based on the minimal land requirements and relatively low cost and recyclable treatment residual, pellet softening is the recommended softening technology for the purposes of the study for the wellhead water softening. And the study looked at basically 2 alternatives. The first alternative included water softening at wells 4, 22, and our new HCA South well, which I think I mentioned before. Our HCA South well, actually of all of our upland wells and the river wells, it has the least amount of calcium and magnesium, so it's the softest water of all of our wells. So that was one alternative, looking at basically at water softening at those three wells, plus the possibility of adding in well 23 in the future if that well is ever developed. And then the second alternative was a more limited alternative and looked at just water softening at wells 4 and well 22. And so, as you can imagine, since the water at that HJ South well is already somewhat soft, it's not as cost-effective to implement it there. And it's also a relatively low capacity well compared to well 4 and well 22. So you'd be spending money for a small amount of benefit and a small amount of water produced. So again, the limited softening alternative is what the consultant recommended. And one important thing to note is that if wellhead softening was implemented, really the benefits that the consultant identified to our residents and businesses of having soft water delivered in the water system, those cost benefits wouldn't really be experienced by the customers unless the city, unless they choose to remove their water softeners, or the city implements ordinances that require them to remove the automatic water softeners. So I'm not sure if you're totally following me. So these benefits of having the city supplied soft water, it's going to cost them money, right? It's going to increase their water bill, but to offset that, they won't want to keep their water softener and be paying for that on top of it. So that's kind of an important thing to note. And then the last conclusion is that because the main driver of the wellhead water softening would be to meet the discharge limits at the wastewater treatment plant, that they recommend that the costs be allocated to the wastewater utility rather than the water utility. So it's anyway. So that basically summarizes the conclusions of their study. And I did want to just wrap up. Within a few months, Public Works staff anticipates beginning the planned update of our water supply management plan and the wastewater treatment plant enhanced treatment study. The update of our water supply management plan will look at how alternative management of our water supply sources might allow the city to maintain compliance with our wastewater treatment plant effluent discharge limits of sodium and chloride. So you may recall a little over 2 years ago, we prepared the water supply management plan. We were in the middle of the drought. Our primary focus really was just, water supply. We weren't really focusing on the water quality because that would have imposed a lot of other possible restrictions to us when we're really just trying to get, good drinking water here and potable water to our customers. So with this update of the water supply management plan, and let me just back up for a second. So one of the recommendations of the water supply management plan is in the years of high state water allocation, try to find a place to bank that water or carry it over in the San Luis Reservoir so that you're basically reserving some of that surplus state water and running your local well water a little bit more during those years of abundant state water. And then when you have years of low state water allocation, you have some state water banked or stored in San Luis Reservoir as carryover, and you can use that. And you still, of course, you'd be relying heavily on your your groundwater wells, but the local wells by themselves wouldn't be able to supply the full demand. So you'd have the state water sort of banked up somewhere. And so that was in essence their recommendation. But when you look at the issue at the wastewater treatment plant, we know that when we run high amounts of state water in our system, like right now, we're able to meet our discharge limits. So within just a few months, our sodium levels went under 150 milligrams per liter in the wastewater treatment plant effluent, and the chloride levels are down to about 160. So they were up at 210, and they're down to 160. So we expect that it'll keep going down, but we're just above our limit on that, so we're really close. Anyway, so now we're going to look at the water quality aspect of all that, and how should we manage the water supply differently if we want to try to also meet or help the wastewater treatment plant meet the effluent discharge limitations. So that's one study coming up. The other one is the wastewater treatment plant enhanced treatment study, and that study will include a component looking at what upgrades would be required to remove salts in the wastewater, allowing us to maintain compliance. So both of these studies are scheduled to be completed this fiscal year, 17-18. We haven't started those studies yet. We haven't developed the RFP for the wastewater treatment study. We have for the water supply management plan, but staff recommends that the city council wait until these other studies are completed before making any decision on the option of implementing wellhead water softening. And so, so at this point, what we're kind of seeing is there's no one silver bullet. Of those four things that we can do, again, the wellhead water softening, water softener restrictions, purchase of more soft state water every year when it's available, and the fourth being the incorporating with any upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant some means of removing the salts, like RO system, reverse osmosis system, which is what you would utilize if you were going to produce recycled water. So it's likely we're going to need to implement 2 of those 4 options to actually meet the requirements. So that's, anyway, that I think pretty much, well, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to talk about the costs. So the limited alternative wellhead water softening alternative, the capital cost is estimated at $3.1 million. Again, that's wellhead water softening at wells 4 and 22. And what's important to note is the annual O&M costs for chemicals and disposal of the pellets and so forth is estimated at $286,000 a year, which is equivalent to an acre-foot cost of $650 per acre-foot. So that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Matt. Is there any questions of staff report? I have one question about the influence of Santa Ynez CSD regarding those limits that we have to follow by. Are they required to follow the same thing that we're asking to do, like, i.e., help us with the water softeners, removing them, or helping us purchase water and all that sort of thing?
Well, you kind of had a loaded question there. So our agreement with the Santa Ynez Community Services District requires that they implement ordinances and other requirements in their system and restrictions on their customers to match equally whatever Solvang is doing. Also, they share in a significant percentage of the cost of all the capital improvements. And so, of course, we have to try to comply with our permit, and if that means doing upgrades and capital improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, they have to pay for some of those. So it's kind of in their interest to help us on the water quality end. And it is interesting to note that when we've looked at the salt content, it hasn't been studied extensively, but we did look at it a couple years ago at a cursory level. Their salt loading is actually equal or just slightly less than ours.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly why that is, but at any rate, so they're not the cause of the problem or anything like that. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt. We'll go to the public now for public comment. Fred Koval.
Here we go again. General observation. Fred Koval, Mayor and City Council members. What happened to the residents? Why aren't they being treated properly? This whole thing slanted us towards make them remove their water softeners. The hell with their pipes. Do everything at the wastewater treatment plant. I can't believe what I heard of the Public Works Director. And then we're talking about banking state water in San Luis Reservoir. Didn't we pay a big price, the ratepayers, for the loss of water in the San Luis Reservoir? Wow, to even think about banking any water there. And the next thing I hear, oh, we want to buy more water, state water. Did anybody remember the reliability for delivery? Well, there's 3 that are floating around. If you believe the Tecolote research scientist who made a presentation here some years ago, it's 25% reliable delivery. The other one kicking around, if you look at the recent numbers, it's 35%. And if you believe DWR, it's 50%. Well, if it's 50%, that's pretty onerous for us guys here. So, you know, I just hear all of this stuff, and it's just like there's no memory. The memory cells have been burned out. Now let's take a look at this fine study, and it was really good. It's got lots of pages and lots of details. But the one thing it lacks is all of the numbers are unsupported. Where'd those numbers come from? 800,000 there, 286,000 are going to be the operation and maintenance costs. Where's all those calculations? Where's the backup data? Where's the source? Well, I went in and I looked at a couple of websites. One is it for, what do you use for keeping the scale off of boilers? They do the same thing. They got to get rid of hardness and total dissolved solids for that matter, of which hardness makes up probably over 90% of TDS. So that's what you're really focusing on is hardness. I even looked at a 40,000 grain water softener over at Home Depot for $147. Not a bad deal. Just what you guys wanted. Implement it. And by the way, with proper care, water softeners, contrary to what I've heard from the dais, really last over 20 years. Easily. It just takes proper maintenance. That means every year you go in and do some maintenance on it. Okay, so the costs are unsupported. Then, so, you know, you can't have it both ways. You're going to force me to get rid of my water softener, and at the same time you're going to give me hard water, and all you care about is that you're going to pass the MCLs at the wastewater treatment plant. Boy, oh boy. So, you know, the TDS limit is 1,000 at the wastewater treatment plant, and the sodium and the chloride are 250 parts per million. But I haven't heard about the two new requirements. Where are they? How are we doing on ammonia? How are we doing on nitrates? Did they implement, State Water Resources Control Board, implement something for that this year? Hadn't heard anything about how that's doing. So, all in all, from my perspective as a ratepayer, I couldn't believe what I heard tonight. I just couldn't believe it.
Thank you, Fred. I have no other speaker slip. Does anyone else wish to speak? Matt?
Oh, I just thought you might like to have a brief response
Sure, yes.
for some of those things. So, okay. Well, for one thing, the costs, it's a concept study. But if you look at the cost for the HJ South well and other improvements that we've recently done, the costs are definitely in the ballpark, very, very well in the ballpark. The consultant, Lynn Takichi, he has over 40 years of experience. He was the president of Kennedy Jinks Consultants, who's a major West Coast consulting firm that specializes in water and wastewater only. So he's a true expert, and I trust his information very much. Regarding the comment about banking, yeah, San Luis Reservoir, of course, we don't want to be using that as our water bank. The point was, sometimes we may have carryover that we don't have anywhere else to put. So staff is looking at the City Council's direction at a couple different water banking options. I apologize, I've been really swamped trying to do a lot of stuff for the city, and it's on my list. I've already had conversations with the utility director at the City of Santa Maria, just to broach the idea and to let him know we're interested, and he said he's happy to talk to me. We've talked with ID1 also. We're working on something with them. And of course, there's the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency that we had rented or acquired that 500 acre feet that we had to pay back a few years ago. They have a water bank. They've just adjusted their I guess pro forma or whatever, their requirements, and so we're going to be looking at that also. But we think if we could work something out with ID1 or the City of Santa Maria, right here in Santa Barbara County, they're both state water agencies, that would be the best, in the best interest of the city. So we are looking at that. Oh, and I just wanted to say, I hope I didn't try to persuade you in any one direction. It was not my intent. So I apologize if it seemed like I was leaning one way or the other. I'm just trying to give you all the information, and I do. The staff does recommend, we wait till these other studies are done, and we can look at all the alternatives together and make the best decision possible, so that you can make the best decision possible. So.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that. Is there anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for consideration. I want to remind you that the staff recommendation is to receive and file a report and to provide staff with any further direction. So under those requirements, anybody wish to speak?
Yeah.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Matt, you're doing a great job. Make your job a little bit easier here. That state water, I want it in my pipes. I want it shipped over to the houses. We're paying top dollar for the water. Send me the good water. You're charging me for state water and you're sending me groundwater. And that makes it really easy. Let's just use it and let's mix it and let's, water these contaminants down or whatever we got to do. The study, I know we directed you to do it, but it is a backwards approach, and that's my opinion on it. We can't go about this by buying more state water and treating the wellheads. I think we need to let everybody have their water softeners, and just fix the problem where the problem lies. And yeah, it's too bad they didn't give us a full rounded report as far as what are the real numbers, what are the real contaminants, what does it, what would it take to treat this at the plant. We can't really do anything with what they've given us. I just don't see where this takes us. But the most important thing is no more buying of state water, and let's use the state water. That's all.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment?
I'm confused by the.
Turn on your mic.
It is. The light's on.
Oh.
By the comments I'm hearing about buying more state water. Unless we're talking about somehow or another magically increasing our allocation. The $2 million is a fixed cost whether we take a drop or not. The molecules themselves are inexpensive. We should be taking all the state water that we're allocated, that we can possibly get. We're going to pay that. We're going to pay that fee. The CCWA and the state water, or the state fee. We're going to keep paying them until they finally sunset. Whether we take a single drop of water or we take our full allocation. Start doing the math on that. We could, if we take 1 acre foot, we're paying about $3 million for it. If we take 1,500, a whole lot less. So I don't understand the comments about not getting state water.
Any other comments? Seeing none, this doesn't require a motion or anything like that, so if there's no other discussion, we'll close out this particular item.
Did we do what he asked us to do? Did we give him direction of what to do with this report, or are we just going to file it?
Well, it was there, we can go by their recommendation. Their recommendation is to hold off.
Okay, I think we should say that.
That's, okay, we agree. Well, until after the study from the wastewater treatment plant study.
Right.
Okay. Next are council member reports. Are there any?
The gaming fund.
Yes.
We met, what, last week ago Friday. And somehow or another we managed to quorum, even though they weren't sitting in here. And the decision, we actually made two great decisions. One, that Council Member Jameson is vice chair, since she was late. And,
That's why I was vice chair.
and we got our funds, the funds for the bridge reallocated to the parking lot. And oh, great pastries too.
I'll just make another comment on top of yours.
Go ahead,
I
please.
think that when we finally do see this magical fire truck that was supposed to be here in April or May, that we christen it somehow, that we celebrate it, because I think it's a cool thing. So as the vice chairman of this committee, I'm going to propose that we have a party for it.
We all get rides up.
Yeah, we get to ride up we get to go up the ladder, do something exciting. So I just think that, the city should be made aware, and the whole valley should be made aware that it's here and how it got here.
I think we should all be in it for the next parade.
There we go.
There
There
we
we
go,
go. But except the mayor.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
He
but
gets his own Corvette.
fire trucks usually end the parade.
That's okay.
Okay, with that, we're going to go to closed session, but before we do, or would you announce the closed session because we have one speaker slip?
Item 10, closed session, Government Code 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, agency representatives, Brad Vidro, city manager, and Sandra Featherson, administrative services director, with employee organization Teamsters Local 986.
With that presentation, Fred, it's your speaker slip.
Fred Koval, Solvang. Yeah, Council and Mayor. Some observations about this whole yearly that we have to go through with the Teamsters over salary increases. I noticed that it's late this year. If you go to all the previous years, it's for the next fiscal year, and we're in the next fiscal year. And as an example, last year, it was done on June the 27th, 2016, and accordingly in prior years. Okay? So I don't know why it's late, but it is. I mentioned this to you before, but my Social Security in 2016 was no increase. In 2017, for this year, they gave me a whopping 0.3%, 0.3. But I had a net decrease because they raised the Medicare premium. Okay? So I dashed off an email to Dianne Feinstein. And she says, "Oh, you're a hardship." She says, "Here, fill out this form." I looked at COLA.
Still waiting to hear back.
5 years later.
Yeah,
He didn't qualify for the hardship.
there you go. Okay, so then I look at COLA per the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And as of May of this year, for the last 12 months, the CPI increase has been 1.9%. That's the inflation. If I look at industrial budgets for salary increases for 2017, and I looked at quite a few sites that give you U.S. forecasts, but they pretty generally show about 3.1%. Now, at your June presentation, I don't know if you remember this sheet by the Administrative Services Director, but it had two things on it. One, it has, as of June 30th, 2016, an unfunded CalPERS of $2.685 million. And there was something called the unfunded other post-employment benefits, known as the OPEB. Never heard of that. But the unfunded liability for that was $1.994 million. And if you add those two together, for this city, it's $4.679 million. So I present these to you for your consideration, that when you go into closed session, you remember this and make your decisions wisely.
Thank you, Fred. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we're adjourned to the closed session.